Hello wonderful people, I'm PvPSkillz and today we're gonna be looking at the GOTTHARD Twinsword, and it's the first weapon I upgraded to the max and my first proper PvP weapon. As soon as I picked up this weapon, I knew it, I just knew it. This will be one of my favorites and I will show you why in this video. So without further ado, let's begin with this weapon review. The GOTTHARD Twinswords are literally unmissable. You have to obtain them in order to continue the game. You find them right before Grand Archives. Let's take a quick look at the moveset, one of the most important things when it comes to a weapon. And in my opinion, this has one of the best movesets we ever seen in the Souls series. It's terrific, it's amazing, and most importantly, so much fun, so much fun. So basically, when you one-hand the weapon, it's a normal long sword. You can use the strong and light attacks, exactly like a long sword. When you two-hand it, you will have both weapons, and the L1 button will be your primary button to initiate the attack with both weapons, which you have to be using. So here is the build. It's a quality build, which means I have 40 in strength and 40 in dexterity, and that's because the weapon has B scaling in both strength and skill. However, the B scaling is not equal. The B scaling in dexterity is stronger than the one in strength. And how do I know that? I know that from infusions. In the game, you have three types of infusions. You have the heavy one, which increases your strength scaling, and then you have the sharp one, which increases your dexterity scaling, and then you have refined one, which increases both scalings. Now, if you look at the strength one, you actually don't gain as much damage as the one with the dexterity, even if you have both 40 in strength and dexterity. So keep that in mind, that's really important. So you can actually go dex with this weapon. However, if you want to optimize it fully, you should be using a 40-40 build and use a refined gem to actually get more damage. Although the damage increase is just like 10 or 20 without infusion, so it's not a big deal, but you should be aiming for doing that. When it comes to rings, it's basically up to you because it's what makes you you. But however, my favorites are usually the Ring of Favor, which increases base stats, which is really good, and you have the Havel Ring, which increases your equip load. Why not wear more things? However, I want to address something that is a bit irrelevant, however it's really important. As you can see, my level is 123, and the meta is people are saying between 100 and 120, and I don't believe that. I believe that the meta is between 120 and 130. That's because spellcasters exist, and even if you don't like them, they should be there. They increase variety and they should be there. And spellcasting is very difficult to achieve at level 100. It's just not realistic. But another thing I want to note also, in the gameplay here, you're going to be looking at 90% of the gameplay is between level 74 and 94 because it was my first weapon that I PvP'd with. Although when you see me wearing the Mira equipment, I'll be level 120 to 123. So let's look at the guaranteed hits that you can inflict on your opponent. So you have the R1, R1, and then you have the L1, L1 when two-handed, and of course one-handed or two-handed you get the R1, R1, and of course a broken combo, a 3-hit guaranteed combo. This is what makes the weapon, this is what makes it kinda OP, and I'll explain in a bit. And that combo is L1, L2, R2. You can hit all of these together in a row. Although people can consider L2 not an attack, although it is an attack, it is a battle art, but still it is a spin attack that does damage. And the R2 is multiple hits, and usually you will take half of your opponent's HP when you do that. And even after the combo, you can still press R2, and 99% of the time they will get hit by it if they roll away, which is the normal reaction of most people. However, if they roll through you or on the sides, it will miss. However, if they roll outwards, you will get that thrust attack, which adds even more damage to that. So this weapon, when it comes to comboing, it is just terrific. Or maybe some people consider it overpowered. I don't know, it's up to you. But this weapon is just beast. And just to clarify on the guaranteed hits, in Dark Souls 2, which is, the last Dark Souls game, usually, or not usually, all weapons cannot do more than 2 hits in a row. So R1, R1, R2, R2, whatever, but usually after these 2 stuns, people will roll away. However, in this game, there's still issues with it. There's still some weapons that can actually do 3 or 4 guaranteed hits, but Dark Souls 2 did have that issue when it was released. There was infinite combos that were actually worse than Dark Souls 3, however, they did patch them in the future. But also, on the other hand, there are some quirky things with this weapon, like you cannot do 2 R2s in a row. That's kind of weird, I don't know why. So the first R2, then they can actually roll away. I don't know what's the reason, maybe they didn't want you to combo to infinity because this weapon already has so many combos. And another tip, a very important tip on this weapon, is when you're two-handing it, and of course you want to always be aiming to be two-handing the weapon. That's when it shines. However, when you one-hand, it's a long sword, it's not bad at all because long swords are really good in all games except Dark Souls 1. They were good PvE, however because of the poise system, Dark Souls 1 they were useless in PvP. Not useless, some people can make use of them, but you will get backstabbed. If you play Dark Souls 1, you know what I mean. So going back to that point of the two-handing the weapon, why it shines and all that, there's something really quirky about this weapon. And when you do the running L1 or when you do the normal L1 but not the rolling L1, so the running L1 and the normal L1, you actually hit with the first weapon, then you hit with the second weapon. That means there's a delay, which is kinda, we never seen that, or I don't know, it never worked the way it works in Dark Souls 3. So there are some issues with the hit detection, so sometimes you can hit from far away and it's not lag. Definitely, I did test it with a friend, and there is some phantom range on this weapon on the L1s, which can make it, I'm sure they optimize it maybe in the future. I don't know if they know about it, if we tell them about it, but yeah, you can hit people out of the range of your weapon, your physical animation weapon, so the hitbox sometimes go further. But also you can use this, forget the hit thing what I was talking about, you can use this in so many situations, because when you do the rolling R1, oh sorry, the running L1, which I'm not used to say because only Dark Souls 3 has a running L1. So when you do the running L1, if you miss the first attack because they rolled, usually the second attack comes after they finish their roll, or after, you know, their invincibility frames or their iframes is finished. So you can hit people out of rolls like there's no tomorrow. The L1, when you initiate it in front of someone and they roll just once, usually the second attack will hit them. So it works terrifically, really. I like it. It's really good. I don't know. Maybe it's kind of overpowered, maybe. And now, since the build is a quality build, if you're not going to go for the dexterity and you're going to have 40 in strength and dexterity, you should have a second weapon. And this tip goes along with all weapons. If you have a fast weapon, have another slow weapon. If you have a slow weapon, have another fast weapon. And since you have 40 in strength and skill, or sorry, skill is in the Bloodborne. So if you have 40 strength and dexterity, that means you can use 95% of the weapons in the game. So don't hesitate of using other weapons. And why is that important in a duel especially, or a fight? Because you become unpredictable. So let's say you're using an ultra great sword. When they play with you, like after a minute, they can predict almost everything and roll everywhere. However, when you switch to a scimitar or a longsword, that will change their tactics. That they will notice, and they will know they cannot keep on rolling the same way. They have to change their timings, and then you switch a lot and you will become very unpredictable. However, there's many low IQ people or kids or antisociable people who will straight away tell you switching weapons, you're a noob, and you shouldn't do that, it's against honor and stuff like that. I say fuck them, because these guys, they want to force their honor on other people, and you shouldn't listen to these guys. These guys are bullshit. Use whatever weapon you want. Of course, it's not nice to use an overpowered weapon. What I'm saying is, use weapons, switch as you like. Even if your main focus is on this weapon, have another weapon, and if somebody tells you, oh, you're a switching noob, just ignore him. And another thing you gain from slow weapons when you have it with this weapon is the hyper armor. Since this weapon doesn't have hyper armor, so if you get hit, you will always get stunned. You should have a slow weapon if you're fighting like against a fast weapon user and you're having a tough time. You switch to the slow weapon, get 2 hits in. If you don't know hyper armor, it's when you hit with a heavy weapon. In the middle of the animation, you won't get stunned, so you can trade. However, with the long swords and the fast weapons, you cannot do that. So with the slow weapon, now you have the best of both worlds. You can poke, you can poke with the sword, then inflict heavy damage with the strength weapon. If you get a parry, you can use the strength weapon to do more damage, and so on. So it's very important to use 2 weapons instead of just focusing on one. So this is the end of this weapon review. There's nothing else to add on this weapon. I hope you learned something new. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in my next video. Peace.